Hello, Algebra 2. So today we're going to kind of continue with our binomial expansion. So I want you to take a moment and on your paper, I want you to go ahead and write out Pascal's triangle all the way to the 6th row. Okay, so the 6th row. So take a moment, go ahead and try that on your own. All right, so your Pascal's triangle should look something like this. Sorry, my dog in the background. Okay, and another row. And remember, the way I'm getting this is by adding the two numbers that are above them to get that next term. Okay, so 1 plus 1 gives you 2, 1 plus 2 gives you 3, and I can continue doing this, right? Okay, so that's going to come in handy when we start doing these type of problems. For instance, we've got this binomial right here. You got a u plus v squared. So in order to do this, we're going to go to the second row, which is this one, because remember, this is the 0th row, this is the first row, and this is the second row. Okay, so we're going to go to the second row, and we're going to use those numbers, so 1, 2, 1. So we're going to go in here, we're going to do 3 columns, and then 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, and we're going to write 1, 2, 1 right here. And then we're going to take our first term, which is a u. We're going to raise it to the second power. Then we're going to take u and raise it to the first, u to the 0 power. Then we're going to take our v and raise it to the 0. Raise it to the first, raise it to the second. And we're going to multiply straight down. So we're going to get 1 times u to the second times v to the 0 power, which is 1. So that will be u to the second power. Ooh, I'm sorry. Also, if you hear any noise in the background, that's my dog. I'm so sorry. U to the second power. 2 times u to the first times v to the first. So that's going to give me 2uv. And normally you want to write this out in alphabetical order. Then we have 1 times u to the 0 power, which is going to be 1, times v to the second. So that's going to be v to the second power. This is your final answer. So if you try the next two, remember you're going to use Pascal's triangle. So on this next one, we're going to use the third row. We're going to write that out. So I'm going to erase this really quick so I have some room. So that's going to be 4 columns and 3 rows. So 4 columns and 3 rows. And we're going to write 1, 3, 3, 1. And then we're going to take the first term, raise it to the third power. Oh, I'm sorry. U to the third, u to the second, u to the first, u to the 0. We're going to take the second term, v to the 0, v to the first, v to the second, v to the third. We're going to multiply straight down. So this will give us 1 times u to the third times 1. So that will give us u to the third. 3 times u to the second times v to the first. So that's 3u second v first. 3 times u to the first times v to the second. So 3u v second. And 1 times v to the third, which is going to give us v to the third power. Again, that'll be my final answer. If I go to the next one, I'm going to use the 5th row. So I'm going to go into Pascal's triangle. I'm going to use this 5th row right here. So I'm going to have 6 numbers. So that means I'm going to have 6 columns. When I set this up, one, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 3 rows. I'm sorry, these boxes look atrocious. 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, 1. So I'm going to take the first one, raise it to the 5th, down. And then I'm going to take the second one and raise it all the way to the fifth power. Then I'm going to multiply straight down. So that's going to be 1 times u to the fifth times v to the 0. 5 times u to the fourth times v to the first. 10 times u to the third, v to the second. 10 times u to the second, v to the third. 5 times u to the first times v to the fourth. And this will be v to the fifth. Okay? So, many a times you'll have problems that ask you for, hey, which term number is going to give you this? Okay, or what will be the coefficient for this term? So let's just think about that for a second. If we had something like this, it's like, consider this binomial. Find the term that contains v to the fourth. Okay, so we already see that this is to the sixth power, right? So that means that when we go into Pascal's triangle, we're going to use the sixth row. Okay, so the sixth row is this one right here. So 1, 6, 15, 20, and then goes back down. So we're going to have 7 numbers, or 7 columns. Sorry. Okay, and then we're going to have 3 rows and 7 columns. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 1, 6, 15, 20, 15, 6, 1. Right? Okay. So then I'm going to take 2u and raise it to the sixth power. Remember, when I raise something to the sixth power, I've got to raise this number to that sixth power too. So just keep that in mind. That's why I use those parentheses to remind me to raise it to whatever the exponent is on the outside. If I leave those parentheses off, then I assume, oh, it doesn't need to be raised. Okay, and then we want to go to v. So I've got negative 3v to the 0 power, to the first, to the second, to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth, to the sixth. Okay. So I said find the term that contains v to the fourth. So instead of multiplying all this mess out, all I'm going to look for is that v to the fourth column. So this guy right here. Okay, so I'm going to go into my handy dandy calculator. So I'm going to go into my TA83 calculator. And as that's opening up, I'm going to go in and I'm going to type 15 times 2 to the second, so that's going to be 4, times negative 3 raised to the fourth power. And notice how I use those parentheses. So that's going to give me 486 or 4,860. So that's going to give me 4,860 u to the second, because u to the second right here, and then v to the fourth. So when it asks for the term, it asks for everything that's in that column. And then now the second question asks you to find the term that contains u to the third. So we're going to look in here, and we see that u to the third is in this column, right? You see it right here. So what we're going to do is multiply all the stuff out in this column. So I'm going to go into my calculator, and I'm going to type 20 times 2 to the third power. So 2 raised to the third power. Notice how I put parentheses around all of that. Times negative 3 raised to the third power. And that's going to give me negative 4,320. Negative 4,320, u to the third, v to the third. Now, when it asks these types of questions, because again, these all are worded differently. So if it asks these types of questions where it says find the third term, that means it's going to be the third one in a row. So this guy right here is my third column. So I'm going to multiply that out and include that as my answer. So, for instance, I'm going to go into my calculator, and I'm going to say 15 times 2 to the fourth times negative 3 to the second, and that's going to give me 2,160, u to the fourth, v to the second. Okay? So these are the different types of questions. It could say, find the term that contains this, find the term that contains that, or find the whatever term. Okay? So instead of actually finding the entire thing, we're just going to set this problem up and we can solve it this way. Now there is another formula that we could use. It uses some stuff that looks like this. But that being said, we're not going to do that in this. We're just going to use our Pascal's triangle to help us out. Okay? So I want you to take a moment, pause the video, and try this one on your own. Okay? Notice how the coefficients for this guy, they're both 1 or negative 1. Okay? So that's really great. But you want to make sure that you use the Pascal's triangle, the 6th row, because there's this number 6 on the outside. Okay? Now, you will notice, though, that your terms are squared and terms are cubed. All right, so let's try this one. So, we're going to have 7 columns. 7 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We love when we do odd numbers. And 3 rows. And we're going to have Pascal's number be 1, 6, 15, 20, 15, 6, and 1. Let's check our Pascal's triangle. Yeah. Okay. And then we're going to take u to the second, and we're going to raise it to the 6th power. U to the second. We're raising that to the 6th power. I'm sorry. And then we're going to count down. Again, you're going to make sure that your whatever is inside that parentheses is what you're going to raise to that exponent. So just keep that in mind when you're doing these. Okay. And then we're going to take that second term, and then we're going to go up, right? Sorry, this is a little cramped. So v to the third, and that guy's negative, so you got to keep that in mind. Okay, and then it says find the term that contains v to the 6th. All right, so here's the tricky part. Okay, because this question really isn't specific in the sense of the term that contains v to the 6th kind of happens in 2 places depending on how this question is kind of